I'm quite pleased really that it's quiet. Most people are saying they're quiet. So when I'd normally be at home looking through auctions and all that sort of stuff, and maybe doing some Facebook posts and whatever, now I'm working on my bare bones of a blueprint, and I'm going to change everything up to like I've got a bit of land, so I'm going to have a prep center there basically. So the system's going to be the car comes here to the garage first, the workshop do everything they need to do and make a list of, well, I mean, they'll just do all the mechanical stuff, but then someone here can make a list of kind of like paint, wheels, whatever that needs doing. And then it can go over there. Someone there is going to have to be involved with doing that. Get those wheels booked in, get the paint done, get it valeted, take pictures of it, do the video of it, and all in a way that I've already set out how I want it to go. And then it's just like a product now that can come back here, just press a button, and it's live. And it's all done in advance. If someone wants to come take that car straight away, they can. Or if it doesn't sell within 45 days, you just trade it on straight away, out of it. It's a car that's really easy to get rid of because it's really prepped, and just get the next one in. There'll be a queue of them, and just one way or another, you're going to keep turning around. Even if you're just making really small profits, trading them on, like here's a car that can go straight on your forecourt. And I think then you get more efficiency out of the staff because the workshop staff's always going. They're not just like, oh, what's out there? And you're like, oh, maybe the brakes on that thing. Everything's gone through. Everything's just a system. It's just like a big mill, which kind of goes against everything I want to do, which is just spontaneous and whatever. But that is exactly what we need. And I think I've thought about it before, but again, talking to you, Danny, it's like a bit like an epiphany moment type thing. I feel like there's two stages to your business, isn't there? There's like this disgusting expenditure and waste and mistakes of growing your business and getting to a point where, like you say, your turnover's great and all that sort of stuff, but you look at the end of the year and maybe your net profits aren't what you want them to be. And the next stage is like, great, we've got a business, we know we can get the sales in, we know we can do everything right. The next thing is just trimming all the fat down and making it actually efficient and making, like, keeping hold of some of that profit. Because, like, we'll have
That's the
turned over
key.
3 million quid, and I think I probably made like 1% net at the end. Um, and it's kind of, I guess, retraining your brain to think, getting a real satisfaction out of not just getting the big numbers in, but keeping hold of some of it at the end as well. It's the less glamorous side, but I think it's probably the more important side. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong.
Another thing is, Joe, as well, like, when it gets busy, stop yourself from going, oh, we need another valeter, we need someone else, we need, because when you're busy, you feel like you're going to be busy forever, but you're not. So it's
Yeah.
reining yourself in, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. You can get bigger, but just do it in steps. And then the other thing is, I'm now trying to think like, right, because I know we're not as efficient as we should be. And then you think, well, all right, so we need another valeter. And then you get another valeter, and they don't do twice as much. They do like 1.1 times as much. And then that's even more annoying because it's costing you more money. You need to like, how can we be more efficient with what we've already got before just throwing more at it?
Do you remember where it's September, October last year? Do you remember when the whole industry just died? Everybody just, everybody just died. Everybody's sales just. I remember going because I'd go to the car sales dealer group to see other people if they've wrote, "Is everybody dead?" And then if everybody says they're dead, you're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay." And I remember at that time, and talk about Valeter, I remember at that time I had a mechanic, um, a painter, full-time videographer, photographer, and the whole industry were dead. And I remember like going into their um workplaces and they were playing games on the phones and stuff like that. And I remember one of the worst days I've ever had in business. I had to lay three off at once. So we're like just to make them redundant. They were the worst. I've never had to do that. And it was just at a time where I'm thinking, because we had a really bad September, really bad October, and you're thinking, are we just about to hit some sort of mega recession here? And the whole, you start thinking about 2009 times and stuff like that. And I remember then it were looking at the costs, and it were awful. Like having to look people in the eye and just say, look, it's not working. And the fact is, why it's such a big regret, it wasn't their fault. It wasn't their fault. It's not their fault. They didn't have much to do. It wasn't their fault they couldn't earn two, three times what you're paying them. Do you know what I mean? And it was just such a hard thing to do. Like for me, we don't have a full-time valeter, but I spend, because most of the cars I buy are from motorway, are all gold grade. They nearly always just need bumper corner. You know, they just need a little bit of flat and polish. It's like now I know that I'm going to have to bring a valeter in, but it's got to be a certain type of valeter that can do that sort of work, and they are going to be expensive. But it's gammon. It is, and it's the first thing you look at is your staff costs. But really, a lot of the time, it's not their fault. Do you know what I mean? It's just the way the industry. You made that decision to hire that DMV. It's not their fault that they've got nothing to do, and that is the hard part of. That's the hard part of running a business, because I'm too soft. I'm extremely soft, and when you don't, yeah, it's an awful thing to do.
That James Sinclair we always go on about, he's like, yeah, hire people, and then if it's not working out, just get rid of them after 3 months. But it's so hard because like you like them, you get on with them. It's not as easy as that. It's not as cutthroat as that, is it?
That's one thing I've kind of learned now, I think, is it's like just taking on more staff and hoping they'll fill the gap of the extra work that you need without these systems and processes, as boring and as dull as it sounds, is really irresponsible, isn't it? Really, when you think about it. You're just kind of like, yeah, just join in with him and do a bit of that. And I mean, our valeters, I'll bring in another valeter guy and he trains them on how to do it. But it's not enough, is it? You need to, like, an ongoing system and a process. And like you say, when you're there and it should be as simple as that's how you do it, and off you go. And people would do that and then use their sort of gumption, whatever. But then that's when you're like out of the business, and then you come back in, you're like, what the fuck are you doing? And they're like, oh well, we're like valeting this car and I'm whatever, and it's like, why are you polishing it and covering it in whatever? It's off to paint tomorrow. Why aren't you talking to it? It's got to have the wheels done and whatever, and you're in there acid wheel cleaning. Why fucking bother? They're going to acid dip them tomorrow, and it's just those. It sounds stupid, but that times 10 people times 6 days a week, all those just wasted times.
100%. It's the hardest. It's the hardest thing, and the thing with me is because I've managed to do, like to say, very well out of my music side. They think that I'm just don't care enough about the business because I'm making money doing other things. But it's like, I did this year. I can have two occasions so I played in a place called High in Ibiza. It's like #1 club in the world. It's like probably a World Cup final of DJing. And I remember that week leading up to it, before I flew out, I was not really in the mode because we'd had a really bad quarter before, because we were just leaking profit. I played at Warehouse Project in Manchester last month, which is like, the UK FA Cup final of gigs. And I were really pissed off that day because my own fault. I went and bought a couple of Evokes from Motorway, and one at Turbos went on it. And you're like, so it's just the think that you don't care because you've got everything else going on, but you still care. Like, you still like get as annoyed as it, but it's just,
I get the same because everyone says about YouTube and whatever, and it's like, well, I don't want to do this. I do enjoy the job, but I wouldn't do it just for fun. And you have no idea the downsides of it all as well, and how much stress there's involved. You're not just, if you had endless money, we probably wouldn't be doing it, would we? We might have a few cars about us, and if we like cars, but we wouldn't do it just for the pure pleasure of it. You want it to be successful, and yeah, it's
so hard. It's like what I've learned from this podcast is not like we are all happy. We all love our jobs, but we've all still got the exact same problems, and it doesn't keep us up at night, but it just absolutely annoys the life out of us.
But this is where I think I'm having like a fire break, just like, rather than just like constantly trying to do more and more and more and expand or whatever it is, the next thing. It's like, let's take a step back before we think about doing anything else. Let's get everything, like, because I'd love to have a site that had 100 cars, because we only really get 35, 40 here. It's like, let's get a real buzz out of doing it really, really well and like really efficiently.
That's it.
Let's get a buzz out of that. And that someone answers the phone, it's going to be answered within 10 seconds. they're going to get the right response. It's going to be someone who can help them, rather than it being like, oh, I'm on my lunch, can you get one of the mechanics to answer the phone? And they're like, I don't know. All that sort of stuff. And then when you're there and you're like, yeah, we're absolutely nailing this. Like, we could do another one now. And then you know, like Danny's saying, you got that handbook. You're like, right. And as Sheik said himself, you know, copy paste. Just you can do that, or to a bigger site or whatever.
Do you think you'd be happier, Joe? No. Do you know, you talk about, especially with your ADHD and stuff like that. For me, I read a book years ago called 4 Hour Work Week. That just
Oh yeah,
fucking
Tim
exists, the
Ferry.
4 Hour Work Week. Yeah, Tim Ferriss. But that was the most revealing book that I've ever had. So it basically taught you about if 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 the job took too long, you outsource. So I've had a guy called Azuru from Sri Lanka who's worked for me full time for 8 years. Full time. He does so many things for me in the background, and he earns maybe triple what his wages in his country. So he lives a very, very, very good life. And that were a big part because it took away all the little admin type jobs that I need to do. But one of the biggest takeouts of that book was what's called a lifestyle calculator. And it's something that I kind of stick by is what's the perfect life? So for me at the moment, my life is absolutely perfect. Like it is in terms of like, you know, on a weekend watching the kids do sports, couple of holidays a year, living a relatively, you know, nice house. And if I look and think, well, if I was to try and scale by double and triple, how much more money do I need to what do I need to fulfill? Do you know, like I could go buy a bigger house, like, but I'm still going to be again. I hate just keep talking about this old sort of you only when you like that, you can only work in certain spaces because there'd be certain rooms in the house you could never work in because you're not productive. And I think it just goes to the fact that if you want to scale, you've got to think of whether the stress and what you're going to try and achieve out of the end of it, like, is going to be worth it. Because the more you do, would it mean you might take less holidays in a year, or when you're on holiday, are you really present? You know, because you're thinking. So for me, it's just trying to think. How can I, like what you said at the end? How can I actually get a really well-oiled machine, but still keep the life that I've got? Maybe have a few more quid in the bank then, but not to go wild. Like in lockdown when all the interest rates were low, I remember at that time when we were looking to buy this certain house, and we'd have gone 3 times the price of the house nearly that are in now because the interest rates were so low. And remember saying to my wife, like, if we'd have gone and bought that house now, with how much the interest rates have gone up, we would have been in this nice big house, would have been crippled. Would have been absolutely crippled. So it's like my motto now going forward, you know, touching 40 next year is to think, for me to thinking, am I really happy in my life? Which I am. How do I sustain that and just add a tiny, tiny, tiny bit more? That's my, because I don't I've not met many, and because I've met a lot of rich people, but I haven't met I haven't met that many happy rich people.
I haven't read that book, but I've written it down and I am going to read it now.
It's an
But
amazing book.
Great.
I had an epiphany. I don't know how long ago. Not that it's really helped me much, but I just sort of thought to myself. I think when I was just desperately unhappy, but feeling depressed and all that sort of stuff, anxious. I was running 2 businesses, one of which I absolutely hated. Taking meetings with people that I had to schmooze with and try and keep them happy for contracts that, frankly, I didn't want in my plumbing business and all that sort of stuff, and kissing ass, and I just didn't want to do it. And you know, I was having like anxiety attacks and whatever. And I thought to myself, what does success actually look like to me? I want to be successful. I want to feel successful because my achievements are 100% linked to my self-esteem. So if I feel like I'm not doing that well, or I'm not improving, or I'm not doing something good, I feel shit about myself. But you think of success like, oh, I have a big company, I'll have people working for me, I'll do all this sort of stuff. That's not it, is it? If you don't have a healthy relationship at home, you're not taking time for yourself, you can't relax in the evening, and you don't have things that you enjoy away from work and whatever, but you've got like £1 billion company, you're not a successful person. You know, you're a slave to your business, aren't you? And I'm still like that. But I do try and think, because I'm not materialistic. So the weird thing for me is wanting to expand and all that sort of stuff, make more money. It would make no difference to me, because if I wanted to buy myself a supercar or something, I'd feel like a right prick in it, and I just wouldn't enjoy it, and I'd be bored of it in a week. Bought myself a big house. It's just a bigger thing to clean, isn't it? And then I'd be annoyed that I got to get a cleaner in and do all that sort of stuff. So really, I could knock it all on the head, and I'd be very comfortable, and I could probably live the same sort of lifestyle I want for many, many years. So it's just it. Yeah, I need to have a good balance. But I know what I know is that I need a feeling of achievement.
Purpose, isn't it? Like the purpose of life is to have
Yeah,
a
and to feel
purpose.
like you've actually achieved something. But what I've realised is it doesn't always have to be bigger. It can just be better. So that's my new sort of focus. Is like, let's make it. I still want to see progress, and
That's
that
a
will give me
great
a boost.
mantra.
I've
That
done something right.
not bigger but better.
Yeah, 100%.
That's a great mantra.